Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Voice of Visionaries. In this episode, we sit down with Anjali Sharma. She's an AI product manager at Mesha, and prior to that, she was founding PM at Emitter. And not only that, but she's a book author. She's an Amazon best-selling author of the book Side Hustle Revolution, and hence, Anjali brings a unique blend of AI native product building, the startup execution, and the side hustle leadership role as well, right? And till introduction is not ended, she's a mentor as well. She mentoring 100 plus aspiring PM and share how to turn agentic AI into the real business outcome, go from a small ideation to the prototype in a week's time, and how to get the leverage those prototype into the real solving the real use cases, right? And whether you are a founder or a product builder or an aspiring PM, this conversation is packed with an actionable framework, a mindset shift to help to scale faster, how to adapt the AI toolkits in your day-to-day life, and how to evolve your idea into a real-time product itself, right? So that is all about Anjali Sharma. So today's episode is absolutely mixer of all these items. Welcome, Anjali. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I am like really excited to share insights and learn from you as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we can start in a different sections. We will try to cater your journey till now. So, Anjali, very first thing is that, nowadays in the era of AI, many roles being evolved, and one of the most evolving role is all about AI product manager, right? So, with respect to that, can you just brief audience that what is your journey till now as an AI product manager, and how the changes are evolving, and very importantly, how what is the turning point that you have decided, I want to go towards the AI product manager.
Yeah. So I have started as a typical traditional product manager, and I have started
Okay.
with Bajaj. So I've spent like 4 or 5 years there. Like just like any other role, AI product management is also a subset of product managers. So a lot of times people just mistakenly feel that maybe it is something very different. It is not. It is you have to be a product manager to be like an AI product manager, and that is
Yes, that's
applicable
correct.
for every other role out there, right? When it comes to AI and my journey specifically, because I have had like 5 years of experience, I have realized that this entire AI buzz is like there all around. People are building it, people are like able to publish their apps and so on. So I just tried my own AI agents. Like I've built two AI agents as a side project, and that is also something that I have written about. I generally do a lot of side projects in general. And when I did that, I loved that entire process. So using those AI agents, I have started applying to these companies who had like a direct use case of AI marketing agencies, people in AI hiring, and so on. And that is how I have started like as a AI product manager now.
Wow, great. Uh, you have mentioned very correctly. Good thing is that you always write everything about your journey, and I have seen that you also write many things on the Substack, right?
Yeah.
One of the good article, what I really like on the Substack is that you have mentioned that how I land to a product manager role in a 2 weeks time
Yes.
without applying or without sharing my resume.
Yes.
That is very, very important and very, very insightful. I have read the article, but can you brief that? How exactly it happened?
Yes. So as I've mentioned, I am a product manager, and one of the very core tasks of product manager is to find like product market fit. And
Hmm.
mentor this to a lot of people. If you are like applying for a job, you are the product. Like you are something that you want to market yourself. You are
Correct.
finding
Yeah.
the relevant customers for your own career. And hence, you can apply the same principles of product management into finding a job. In this case, you are the product, and the target audience will be all the people who are like looking out for someone like you. So what I have done is I have started, like, I have niched down like what all job or what all industries I want to work for. It is generally applicable, like the industries you have worked with before are highly likely to hire you compared to some very different industry out there. After that, I have built a very direct use case of these industries. So I wanted to apply to AI marketing specifically.
Okay.
And I have built, say, AI copywriter and AI competitive analysis, which is like a direct use case of AI marketing. Using those projects, I have reached out to these people on LinkedIn, via email, and so on. And one of the LinkedIn messages has turned out to be like really good. I've just applied directly on LinkedIn via message. Like, LinkedIn job is not basically the right portal to apply if you would
Yeah,
ask
that's
me.
correct. Yeah.
But I've just directly reached out to the founder saying, these are the projects I have worked on. I have this experience. I would like to explore a job at your firm. And he actually responded with like a Calendly link. And from
Mhm.
that, we had like 3, 4 rounds of interview. And I never had to send my resume or cover letter. These, like, my projects are sort of enough. And that is the thing with AI. Like, if you see now, building projects are easier than it was before. And hence the resume is sort of the theory of what you can do. But if you want to
Hmm.
market yourself very well, you have to show it in a practical way that you can do things. And the best way of showing that is actually doing that thing and sharing those links with people out there. So that is why a lot of people like Perplexity, Google, LinkedIn, they have stopped having like a resume section on their hiring
Yeah,
process.
that's
They
correct.
are just
That's
saying
correct.
that you just submit your work, tell us like what all you did, and so on and so forth. And I think that that is the future of hiring, because everyone is applying to jobs via AI. People are also evaluating jobs via AI. Nobody is sort of
That's
getting
true.
jobs
That's true. So both
in
the
this.
side AI is there.
Yes. So the more real you can get with your skills rather than theory, the more helpful it will be. And I'm pretty sure that these resumes and cover letters will have the less value than, say, side projects in the coming time.
Okay. So, if I'm remembering correctly, then there are two products you have built before applying to that founder.
Yes.
That is, one is a new writer, right?
Yes.
And the market lens, right?
Yes.
So, just one question: that is there anything specifically you have figured out for this company? This is the requirement, and turning out this project will definitely help me to reach there? Or is it something that you find the industry and you figure out a generic product which may help to the company? What was the way?
Yeah. So I am a writer. I write. I love writing out there. And I was seeing a lot of these portals are sort of automating that process. Even though, as
Okay.
like a hardcore writer, I will never automate my entire writing. I still have to write.
That's true.
Obviously, I take help from ChatGPT and other tools for the structure, for the keywords maybe. But eventually, like, the ideas are mine. But I
Hmm.
was just exploring like what all these platforms are doing. So in this entire process, I have found Jasper and Write Sonic as these two companies who were actually
Okay.
creating SEO optimized blogs. Because I
Okay.
am like coming from a background of blog writing, I explored these platforms and I realized that what if I could build the same thing, but I will just add more humane touch to that. Like, something which I was not able to find on any one of these AI articles is they sound very robotic. And if you
Hmm.
just
That
anything
is
out
correct. That is
there,
correct.
you can just easily figure out this is written by AI. So I just had this challenge in my personal journey, and I figured out there's a concept of, say, neuromarketing, where you just
Hmm.
talk to the emotions of person out there rather than just figuring out like these are the features, these are something which I do. So I have trained the model on neuromarketing principles, and that's when I realized that maybe I should build a product out of this so that I can use
Okay.
myself. Like, the very first rule of thumb which I always tell people is build something that you will use. You will, like, there should be at least 100 people that are exactly like you in this similar domain. You know your pain points very well, you know how this works. Rather
Hmm.
than picking like a random industry, random product, use build something that you will regularly use. So that is when
Okay.
I have realized, and I have built a new writer as a product. And I have built this with one more person in the team, the entire thing. And once we have built new writer, we realized that the results were actually pretty good than all the other people out there. but it's still like a wrapper, right? Like there are like a lot of tools out there. So I have
Yes, correct.
personally used New Writer for my own blog writing to create like engaging copies and so on. And that is when I have just used this as a side project, and I have learned through the entire process. Same as with the market lens, because I'm a product manager, I have to do a lot of competitive analysis. Most of the
Hmm.
tools are either paid, or that is also second thing. If you are basically finding something paid, you can just build it yourself. That is like very easy
That is correct.
at this point in time. So that is when I have created these two products. I have learned through the entire process, and it was like a win-win only because I was using these products to actually apply for jobs. So again, a win-win situation in the entire process.
So I think very two important lesson you have mentioned that was specifically to find the idea of the product. One is that find something that you can use in a day-to-day life,
Yes.
right? You can solve your own challenge first. That is the best thing to find some good ideas. And second thing you have mentioned, if something is really paid, it's straight away you try to make something on the free of
Yes.
cost, right? So that would definitely help, right? So that is a great way to understand what is the idea of the product, right? That's a first part of that. And even I would like to talk a little bit about your book. And yeah, I'm having the book with me. You can see
Yeah.
this is a really great book. And in this, I think this book is all about four different major sections.
Yes.
First is the idea. Second is the ideal, right? Third is the product, and fourth is the launch, right?
Yes.
That's where. So before going to the sections, right? Can you just brief how that idea of writing a book came into your journey, and what is that thought provoking point where you decide, okay, I should write a book? And one more interesting point is that you mentioned that you have written this book in 90 days, if I'm
Yes.
not wrong. Yes,
Yes.
yes. Okay, so how exactly it happens?
Yeah. So as a character, I experiment a lot, and
Okay,
I basically try to do as many things as possible just to figure out like if this thing is not right fit for me, or if I actually enjoy doing that. And that is also something maybe like on a very separate note. If you are just starting out, if you are basically not sure what to do, just experiment as much as you can. And
okay,
whenever you are experimenting, you will realize that maybe this is something I do not want, or maybe this is something I can scale. That has happened with me writing. I used to write
okay.
on Medium before. After that, a lot of people have suggested that you should write your own newsletter. So I have moved to
Hmm,
Substack, and I have
hmm,
my newsletter, and the responses are like really great there. I used to write about life previously, then I moved to product management, so I started writing about that. But more often than not, I basically write about whatever is happening with me. Any new
okay.
skills I have picked up, any new technology I'm learning, any new method of life I have figured out in this, say, decision making and so on. That is how I was writing about it. When I was going through this process, I think I have heard it in one of these podcasts by, I do not exactly remember the name, that if you have to basically explain a query more than twice, write a blog. If these queries are more than 10, just write a book out there. And
Oh,
that just hit me so well because I was explaining the same thing every single time to every person. Like, how did you start
okay.
this? How did you? Because I have done so many things, it was very difficult for me to explain individually how did I actually do something. And
Hmm,
more often than not, the entire structure is sort of same. Like you start with an
okay.
idea, then you figure out like what is the target audience out there, then you figure out what will be your product. After that, you figure out how will you market this and so on. And again, you optimize in this entire process. It can be anything. It can be your career. It can be a project you're working on. It can be your job hunt, anything on these lines. So that is why, that is the motivation behind me writing the book, because I was actually tired of actually responding these things in time to people out there. And what I have explained in this book is sort of a crash course on how can you start with
Correct,
any.
yeah.
It might not be like the best book on say business building out there. This is, I still recommend people. I have a 9 to 5. I love corporate job, which was like sort of strange, but you get a lot of flexibility if you are already having a corporate job. You can experiment more, you can fail more, you can actually
Yes,
do
yes.
things which are not sort of very high
Hmm.
paying in terms like in my case I love writing, but to be like a very high paid writer out there, I would have to go a very different route. and the chances of me being successful are also very different. So I figured out like I also love product management, so I do that as a job, and all the other things are sort of me just exploring my habits
Correct. Yes.
and so on. So that was how I have started this idea. Because I was a writer, a lot of things came sort of naturally to me. The only thing that I was challenging was to basically club everything, because if you just start writing, there is no end. Like you just do not
Yes.
figure out like where should I end that. So I had an editor that has helped me. I also have like a lot of drawings, if you see there, all of these were
Yes.
sort of
Yes. Yes.
done by me. And everything, like it was a self-published book. I do not wanted to like basically wait for say 6 7 months, because I wanted to do it early. And that is also the thing with experiment. If you are experimenting with something, you need to have a timeline. And once
Yes.
I
Yes. Yes.
published the book in say 3 months, it was like first I realized I can do that. Second, I just realized that maybe I'll find something more substantial later on, and then I can write
Correct.
a book about that. So that was like the
Yes.
entire process of me writing about something which I was doing, which was like side hustling all along 9 to 5.
Yes. And very good part of about the book is that there is a beautiful character, Harry.
Yeah, Harry. Yeah.
So that character is really good. And now I can connect the dots because see, this book is all about you feel that it's a someone's story, right?
Yeah.
Someone's lessons. And very easily you can connect with your day-to-day life, right?
Yes.
So as you mentioned that you really don't want to repeat the same thing and
Yeah.
want to so I can connect. So can you just brief on each section what all the four section is all about?
Yes. So the first section is idea generation. Whatever domain of life you are like experimenting with, you need to have a basic plan of what you want to do. That is also
Hmm.
applicable in life. Like if you want to basically reach somewhere, move out of somewhere, you need to be very sure. Because first, if you cannot define what you want to do, you will not know if you have succeeded or failed, or like if you want to take feedback from the process, or what exactly has happened. So the first
Correct.
process, idea generation. And in this entire section, I have mentioned what all sources you can get ideas from. The very first and my favorite place is your own life. There is a reason you
Yes.
are put in
Hmm.
that life with these circumstances, with these challenges, what you're facing on, because every single life is different. Every single
Correct.
one is sort of born in a different setup, face a very different set of challenges. So you were put there for a reason. This is something which I feel. So if you can basically solve for your own self, you are actually solving for say a lot other people who are exactly like you or similar to you. That is first. Again, obviously, if there's certain areas that you are interested in, certain areas you are naturally good at, you always have to figure out like things that you're not directly bored of doing. Like I'm writing for almost last 10 years. I used to write on very different formats. I was not even this consistent for a very long period of time. But at no point I was telling myself that this is boring, right? Even though
Hmm.
I'm writing, even though I'm not writing, I have never said to myself that this is boring. I have just said maybe I'm not able to find time. And that is why I'm not writing. So that is the concept of ideas. You have to pick up a problem you can directly relate to. Otherwise, you will
Correct.
just drop off, or you will have to figure out ideas that you are naturally good at. And there are always
Hmm.
areas that you're naturally good at. To identify that, obviously, you can think of like how your friends are reaching out to you. Like for
Hmm.
what all domains your friends are reaching out for, say support, guidance, any ideas. If your parents are like telling you something, in general, you just have to understand which setup you are in and what are the challenges you are facing. And if you are like if you have a direct motivation of doing something in this domain. So that was the idea generation part. Once that is done, the second part is finding the ideal target audience. A same
Yes.
solution can be very different if you just change the audience. For example, entertainment. Like
Hmm.
entertainment for a newly born will be very different, will involve like very different set of tools
Correct.
and platforms and all of that, compared to say entertainment to a youngster, compared to a entertainment to say a very old age people out there,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Hmm.
The entire, even if you figured out like what you want to do, the entire solution that you have to build will be very different compared to who is your target audience. Again, in this area also, just figure out what are the main people directly affected with these. If you want to like solve for yourself, what is the quantum of people, so on and so forth. But you just have to define that this is my target audience. These are, say, 25 years of people, youth, working in corporates, living outside home. Like how much specific you want to be. That is the second step. The third step is actually the building of product. And
Yes.
you
Mhm.
should be building something that people are wanting, and not just that they are saying. It's a very common term in this is mom test. If someone is just saying, yeah, this is a nice product, I will use it, they are not going to use it. Like that is for sure. They are just basically saving your feelings out there.
Yes, yes.
And I think in this entire concept, I am like a huge follower of Naval Ravikant. I highly recommend
Mhm.
anyone who can just follow them. And he just explains this in very well, that you cannot fool Mother Nature. That was like one of the recent posts he has posted. You can fool your
Correct.
parents, you can fool your friends, because all of these things are sort of substantial. If you're doing something, nobody is going to tell you that this is basically pure short wrong, or this is not a good idea, because they want to save your feelings. But once you build an MVP, take it to the market, that is the only place where you get real feedback. And that is how the MVP, the concept of MVP is like very
Yes.
famous. Something at a very small scale for a very niche community, and just launch it. Launch it as soon as possible. Take real feedback from people and then iterate over that. So once obviously you build the product, you build the MVP, then you do the marketing of it, like which all channels are these people using, so on and so forth. Whatever works, just scale something that works, and do not basically feel very bad to let go of ideas that have not worked
Hmm.
out. And that
Correct.
that is something like very very personal to me. I have built two projects in, say, a female sort of community, which was like legally was my idea, but
Okay.
eventually I realized I was not able to scale it, and I clinged to the idea for a very long time, like longer than I should. And then I realized that maybe that was not a good idea after all. So, like, do
Okay.
not be blinded with your opinions out there. Experiment, take results, like, be aware of your biases. Like, this is a bias I'm having, and the more feedback you get out there, the better it will be for your progress. So that is the entire process that I have covered in this entire book.
Okay. Great. Great. This is a really great explanation about the book, and I would say it is also very key aspects to understand what we should do. And couple of point I really like about all the explanation is that one thing what you really mentioned is that don't wait for something big to happen. Just you have some idea, try to do a prototype and have your own MVP. That's a point one. Second thing, very important, I feel that you mentioned that always take a feedback, train, iterate, and go back into that loop.
Yes.
You'll understand. I think this is one of the key things to understand. Is your MVP is fair enough to do the scaling or not? Or other way, as you mentioned, you should at the same time you should accept also if something is really not working out, right? That's the second thing. And the third thing is that when you have your product, to find the right people. The
Mm-hmm.
entertainment example, what you have given, is a very, very important because the product is solving something, but at the same time, solution matters to many different people in many different ways, right? So
Yes.
that's where you have to find the right product market fit in this particular segment and realize where exactly my product can be positioned well, right?
Yes.
So this is, and then there are multiple further questions to that. I would like to ask each and everything, but let me start with something from the scratch, right? So now we are in a AI product era, right? And and we see the evolution of AI in last couple of years, a very huge, a very drastic, right? And we started with some basic LLM models, and we see a couple of just text generation, right? Still, many people understand that AI is all about ChatGPT, but the era is altogether on a separate level. Okay, that landscape is too high nowadays to even visualize. So then we came to the Gen AI part, out of different LLM. Then we have Gen
Yeah.
AI, then we have agentic AI, right? And now further, many other things are already there in the pipeline. But let's stick to agentic AI and try to break down it into the simple word so many people can understand what agentic AI is there in the market right now, how to leverage the technology itself into the routine, and how one can, make himself or herself 10x faster than what traditional one can do, right? So just can you brief the basic definition of a agentic AI from your point of view, apart from whatever the hype we have, right? So in a layman, can you just explain
Yeah.
what you understand on agentic AI?
So AI is also a technology, and technology was always means to access people to do their job in a better way, right?
Correct, absolutely.
AI and technology and all of these things will always remain a tool. Obviously, the hype is like way higher at this point in time to say things like this. But in a very nutshell, AI is also a tool that is helping you to do the existing job in a very better way, right? And again, I am also like an advocate of say possibilities in general. You always figure out like do not basically feel restricted in any setup. AI is sort of doing that. AI is like my very very close friend in general to do that. Like I was a product manager, it was very difficult for me to actually build something out there without a developer. Every single project I have led, I had a developer out there. When AI came into picture, the barrier of me finding a developer was no more there. And this is just
Correct,
one
that's
use case,
true.
but any other use case you can think of, like you don't know how to code, there are tools that will help you that. You don't know how to find the perfect people, there are tools to do that. You don't know how to reach out to these people with messages, there are tools to do that. Like the barrier of doing the same thing that you used to do are now gone. And that is the core essence of say AI, agentic AI, Gen AI, or whatever. It is just an exceptional personal assistant you can have with yourself that will help you do your present job in a much better way. And that is like the very very good saying that AI is not going to take your job. Anyone who is using AI is definitely going to take your job, because anyone who is using AI will do your job in say 10x less time and maybe
Yes,
5x more
correct.
effective compared to anyone who is still using traditional methods. So that is how I think about this entire AI and technology, like a personal assistant that is there with you to help you through every single thing that you can think of.
Okay, that is a really great thing. I truly agree with you. Absolutely, that it's a time to use AI as an assistant, make yourself faster, whatever you are doing, right? And any kind of framework would you like to discuss to build any AI native product in terms of LLMs, in terms of UX? We have Figma and many tools, right? Help you to do, as you said, dependency and barrier is very less now between product
Yes.
manager and the engineering team. So we have many good tools like a Figma and other, and even we can faster our strategies, our GTMs, building a collaterals, everything we can do a very faster way, right?
Yes.
So can you just say on something on the framework of the building AI native
Yes.
products?
Yeah. So, from a very product management point of view, all of these tools, because I'm a product manager, I have used mostly that. But for any sort of general queries, what is happening in the internet and so on, ChatGPT is hands-on, like the first tool that you should go to. If you are into say research, more on the research side of things, if you want to work with say infographics and so on, I use Perplexity, and that's also like a very good tool. So all of these research, ideation, figuring out what is happening in the market, news, because that is also very important now. You have to keep up with the news because it is changing
Yes.
more than ever, sort of. So these you can use ChatGPT and Perplexity. After that, once you have built that for actually building something without writing code, my preferable tool is Lovable. Like Lovable is
Yeah.
hands like the best tool. It creates like very good UI out there.
Hmm.
After that, if you extend that domain of building, you will have to have a backend to your front end system. Lovable is more or less like building front end out there. So for backend, Lovable has Supabase, so I had to use Supabase, even though like I'm not a very big fan of Supabase. I generally use Google Firebase as a database. And after a point in time where you have to scale your projects out there, you have to use a AI coding assistant, which
Hmm.
Cursor is doing an exceptional job, hands down best tool out there. Then I use Cursor. Out there, obviously, apart from all of these things, traditional tools like GitHub, Vercel, and all of these things will still remain at the core, because, as I say, AI is just helping people to do what they used to do. Obviously, the things might look very different when you use it a tool, because in my present role also, when I work, in my very first job, I was just defining the PRD. I was talking to a designer to build the design. Then these designs were given to the developer out there, they develop something, then I test it, and all of these things, and that was a traditional process. In my second job, where AI was just starting out to be there, I was not actually dependent on a designer, because there was no designer sort of. I have worked in a startup, so I was the designer, I was the one defining these things out there. I was actually creating prototypes using Lovable and all these other tools, and then we were presenting these prototypes to either developer. One more very direct use case is also, you can present these prototypes to clients out there. And if your idea is validated, you can basically build that. That is the entire concept of, say, MVPs out there. So that was the second thing. In my very recent job, because it is very heavily integrated with AI, I am also like a front end developer here. Because with Lovable, you can get the front end code. So there's a back end developer who does all of that. And so my role personally, I was a product manager, then I was a product manager and a designer, and now I'm a product manager and a designer and a front end developer. So that is how the roles will be emerging, and this is not just the case with, say, product manager. Developers out there are also learning these tools, because they have to
Yes,
basically
yes, yes, correct,
keep it
correct.
in the pace. So yeah, these are like the tools that I have used in the process.
Okay, so Anjali, is it something, so even the way the role itself evolved as a PM to a AI product manager, so there are multiple other roles are also there, right? For example, product designer, product architecture, product engineer, right? So what is your take on this role? Is it something that nowadays combination of these roles is mandatory? Because the way you say you are also front-end engineer, but
Yes.
it's as good as a product engineer as well, right?
Yes.
So is it something that, mixture of these two is a very mandatory thing now?
Yeah, I think in my opinion, I've also read a lot about this, because I was also scaring that if AI will take my job and so on. But I have read a lot about this, and eventually, in like what people are suggesting or predicting, and like what all information is out there, all these the product managers, designers, and developers will sort of merge into one role, which will be like a product engineer or AI builder sort of role. So if you see the
Yes.
stats on, say, product engineer or AI builder, the jobs are sort of increasing very exponentially, and the traditional PM jobs are sort of decreasing. So yes, if you stay in your very traditional ways, the only harm, and I think it's a very good podcast by Nikhil Kamath and Sam Altman.
Yeah. Yes.
This
Yeah.
person has explicitly mentioned that if you are anyone who just says that this is how the work used to be there, you are just losing your job. Like, that's a very, very first sign that you will lose your job.
And
So
that's
you
true
have
as
to
well.
adapt. Yeah. So in general, in my opinion, designers, engineers, and product managers will sort of merge now. And the more you can adapt, obviously you can go like to a very great extent. Obviously, front end and all of these things are sort of very basic for a product managers now. In all of these companies like Microsoft, Google, Shopify, and almost all startups, this vibe coding round is sort of mandatory. I have also gone through this round, because not just it is easy, it is also empowering to product managers to build something of your own, rather than, as I have said, like the putting just the theory out there that we can do this and we can build this and so on. So that is something which I have a take on these. But eventually, as like the world is changing, we'll just see like what will happen.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely true. So, second challenge into the framework, what you have explained, what even I have also explained the same thing is that multiple tools are there. For example, let's take example of a cursor, right? So underlying they are using some backend, right?
Yes.
Backend belongs to some particular LLM, right?
Yes.
Now, my point is that couple of tools are rapidly evolved and so I would say too much into the market that everyone started using. For example, there is something called cursor. At one point of time, everyone want to use the
Yeah.
cursor only. Then Bolt came.
Yes.
Bolt is also, go viral. Everyone started using it, right? Then Copilot came. Even then, if I'm not wrong, Replit, something like that, that was there, right? So tools are emerging one maybe in any of the area, right? That's the one thing. Second thing, at one point of time, giving the same prompt to two, three different tools, and you'll get the two, three different output as well, right? Because not only the vibe coding, but if you take example of, let's say, some reasoning model, you try out
Yeah,
some reasoning model on a two, three different tools, you try it out some text generation model on a two, three different tools, you'll get a all different output altogether. Most of
yeah,
the time, you'll get some difference, right? Now, my point is that how to stay up to the mark that this particular tool is having the latest LLM model in a backend. So whatever I'm going to do the prompting, I'll get my best accurate output. For that, is there any hack or technique to figure out?
yeah. Actually, that's a very good question. And I also had this similar question in my previous journey and all of that. I always feel when I research, I realize that never stay loyal to any tool out there because that
That's true. Absolutely.
that is
Yes,
like
yes.
this. Just focus on what exact work needs to be done. There is also a framework in product management that you always define your problems, like what work needs to be done. And as I said, you need to be crystal clear of what you want to do. If, for example, I'm building something, I go to Lovable, I give the prompt, and I see the output. If I am not finding the outputs correct, then maybe I have to change the prompt. That is all. More often than not, it is the case that you have to like reason a lot with the prompt. Even after that, the results are not correct, then maybe that's not the right tool for you. And it is also
Okay.
possible that today you are using, today I'm using Lovable, tomorrow something different comes up and I will be like, this just works better than it. And not because I'm just keeping a track of what all tools are there. I just figure out that maybe Lovable is not able to give me the results that I am looking out for. And only then is the scenario that I will actually look out for a different platform. I see that something else comes up, I experiment with it little bit, and I will just use that platform until it is solving my problem. There is no concept of loyalty in terms of AI, and I have just figured out
Absolutely.
this
Yes.
in a very different way.
Hmm.
Again, every single tool has a different use case, like other tools that you have mentioned. If I am using, for example, for vibe coding, I use Lovable. There's also a tool Replit for the same purpose.
Yes.
It also has a backend and all of that. Replit is a tool for developers more, because as product manager are sort of learning how to code without writing a code, these developers are also doing the same thing. They're also figuring out how to create designs without actually having like a business statement and so on and so forth, right? So that by default, as a product manager, I'm a no coder, so I will not be able to talk in the language of development, right? But as a developer, it is very easy for these people if a platform just talks in the language they are very familiar with. And hence Replit is a tool, same tool. Replit also builds all these platforms, it has a backend and all of that, but
Yes.
has a user base of developers, and Lovable has a user base of say non coders, non technical people. Same tool, same platform, all of these same. So all of these platforms that are being built are more or less about one particular persona, and eventually people will basically choose what type of persona they are getting into. But in the nutshell, you cannot be like loyal to one tool. If something is not working out, you just have to move and figure out like what is the next best tool out there.
So I think experimental procedure is the only way out,
Yeah.
not stick to the way. I think that's a really great one. Okay, so now let's move on. I think we covered a lot of things in terms of how the AI is evolving, what a product manager is doing, and how to adapt the new tech into your routine, right? So that's a great thing. Now, if I'm just considering, say, uh, so as a product manager, you also have to the way you are doing. One is a prototype, right? You already explained the framework for the MVPs, right? Now, second part about the writing PRDs, collaterals, right? So for that, the one of the key challenge what product manager is facing is that uh, this text solutions models will give you some robotic writings,
Yeah.
and after generating the collateral from the any AI tool, again you have to rephrase Or the second most important thing is that you, as a middleman between the engineering and the sales and marketing people, you must have a business tech plus I would say, a user-based mindset to be there,
Yeah.
right? And that's where you have to rephrase in terms of how engineering people can easily understand the requirement. You have to drill down and detail out such a way. At the same time, the same collateral when it goes outside to the front-ending people like the sales and pre-sale people, it should be more on a case study driven or some. It must, rich with the quantified data, right? So what is your take into that? Once AI will give you some collaterals, how and what exactly you would like to rephrase into those collaterals?
Yeah. So the very specific case of PRDs are like sort of redundant. So I will just use like a generic sort of example because more or less we are like communicating in terms of prototypes rather than say PRDs or documents out there. But if at all, because product managers are like the core collaborators out there in the team, as you have
Yes.
rightly mentioned, in general, the very core thing, as I have already mentioned, is jobs to be done. Like whenever you are
Hmm.
communicating with a developer, your job is to explain that product in a very basic terms to the developer of what needs to be done. What is the job there is basically explaining why we are building this, what exactly we are building, and so on and so forth. Like maybe for two tools you will follow, what is the design, what is the prototype. That's a different job altogether. So if you figure out that like this is my job, your response will be very different. You can just give the same thing to ChatGPT also. Like all of these tools will actually help you. The very first response from these tools will be very generic, and hence there are concept of say context engineering altogether, where you can train the models out there. In every single platforms you're using, there's a section of say project in ChatGPT, spaces in Perplexity, or whatever tool you sort of use. So you can train that chat. What you can do is just create a new project, give all the information that you're having, that I am a product manager, I do this, these are my project, this is the company, this is our competitors. So this entire chat had the context of what exactly we are
Yes,
talking
correct,
about.
correct.
Because in general, the overall context is huge out there. So to get better results, you have to provide as much clear and as much context that is possible out there. So that is the first scenario. If at all you have to pitch the same thing to a salesperson, then you will not be explaining like what exactly you're building. They don't care what you're building. You can build anything. They will just care about how is it beneficial for them. So you will work with them. The jobs to be done there is whatever I'm building, what is the direct impact of it? Like, is it more sellable now? Is it like a unique proposition for existing people? Is it like a product for new customers out there? Which exact metrics of those are actually relevant? So the jobs to be done framework is the best framework I have figured out to have the
Okay.
context that I am having, and also give it to like all the LLMs that you use. And that is how you get the personalized results, PRDs, documents, whatever exactly you're looking out for any one of these collaborators you're working for. Just identify what is the job, why do they care? Like if I just explain this marketing strategy to a developer, they do not care, right? That is not their job.
Correct,
They're
yeah.
not being paid for that. If I just explain the tech details, like we are using this database, we are optimizing queries, a salesperson will not care. So you have to figure out in each of these relations and collaborations out there, what is the job that needs to be done from your side, and you will get say personalized results using all of these projects and context engineering and all of that.
Okay, that is really great answer. I think, yeah, I think that is where we have to, define a fine line between the, what exactly in which particular segment we want to achieve, right?
Yeah.
And that is always being given by the context you are giving as input. So that is absolutely great. So now let's move towards understanding the growth mindset and the resiliency. And I've seen you have written a lot of things on that mindset or the resiliency part as well, right? And you already mentored many aspiring PM as well, right?
Yeah.
So understand that growth mindset is very, very important, right? So now you have already written about many frameworks, right? And as you say it, right, you always say what is the challenge I am facing and how I was solved. Same thing you write it in your blog, on your Medium, Substack, and web, right? Now, also you mentioned about side projects, right? The MVP prototypes and all, right? And as well, you mentioned about career aspects of it, right? So, so what is so how exactly your mindset shaped in this path, right? Because everything cannot be done at a one point of time, right? You
Yes.
can so slowly things are evolving. Mentorship, author part of your life, and then your AI part of the life. So, what is that overall path?
Yeah. Thank you that you have asked this. I have like a very good answer for that. So I've been following a lot of people in general because like any other person out there, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And if you ask me today also, that question is somewhat like dicey, but I was at a very bad place, like I feel, when I was just starting out. So I came from a like very unconventional sort of I am from Uttar Pradesh. So once I had to go for engineering, I went to the very first college that came up. I went to the counseling and then I was like, "Ki, which branch should I take?" So my father is an electronics engineer. So he's like, just take electronics. I was like, okay. Because I didn't know anything back then. Right. So that is how I've started this entire career sort of thing. And if you are just starting out with any without having an idea of like what you can do, this is a great framework that I have basically
Correct.
adapted through multiple people out there. Very huge credit is sort of to Naval Ravikant, but also other people have also shaped this. There are three most important decisions in your life, and I'm just quoting Naval Ravikant at this point. The three most important decisions will always be what you are doing, who you are with, and where exactly do you live. All the
Okay.
other things of your life will eventually be on these lines. What you are doing is something that you are doing at this very moment, like not something that you will go say 5 years from now, not something you want to do, or something that you are doing in present tense, what you are doing, right? The second one is who you are with. Even though obviously a lot of people take career and personal life very separately, I personally don't think this is how it works. Who you are with in terms of say friends or partner or whosoever that person is, parents and so on, directly impacts your motivation towards working something, towards building something, and so on. So that is again the second most important decision, is who you are with. The third one is where are you from, like where exactly are you living. And most of the people are sort of very much focused on the first two, but the third one directly impacts the kind of opportunities you will get to succeed in one domain or another. There's a very famous quote saying you are average of five people you live with. Like you,
Yes,
the more
absolutely.
intellectual people you spend your time with, the more people. And if you are also on a very similar line, if you are like the smartest person in the room, you are definitely at the wrong room. You shouldn't be at that room altogether. So these were the principles that I have learned from a very basic, and I have sort of optimized for all three. Like obviously, a more focus was on say first two things rather than like the third one. But these are like if you have to start, that's where I start. After that, you have to experiment a lot. Nobody is sort of born and then say, the purpose of your life is to write. You will never figure that out. You will never even know like what you want to do unless you actually do something and you're not liking that, right? So you have to experiment a lot. How do you experiment? Pick anything that comes naturally to you, something which is out there. You can call it luck, you can call it placement, whatever. Just pick one thing, try to be the best at that one thing. And again,
Mhm.
just do not pick something for say 1 week and you're like, this is not working out. That is not how it should be. Always reach to a point where you are at least in top 10%, top 20% out there, and then take a decision. Are you liking this, or more, do more of that? Are you not liking this? Then you should be having the courage to say no. And that is like a very standard principles you will learn over and over. And that is the best framework, like the best minds out there, all these entrepreneurs, all these successful people sort of
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
the same thing. So in my personal journey, when I was sort of into electrical and electronics management, I didn't know that I was doing this. In hindsight, I can say that I was sort of doing that. So I said, okay, how can I make the best of my electrical engineering, right? So in the very first year, I have started building a car racing team for Formula racing. I was working very hard in general in college. I didn't have any friends and so on, but that's like a very, very different path I have taken in college the very first time. And we were actually selected to present our Formula student car to Germany. We went to Germany. We
Wow.
were actually presenting all of that. It was like a peak moment for me. Like for any electronic
Absolutely.
engineer,
Yeah.
I was actually building like the PCB of the steering, like the race car steering. And after that, I realized maybe I'm not enjoying it anymore. Right? Even though I'm say at the top 10-20%, I will probably get like top 10% placements in electronics. I am not liking this. I cannot do this for a very long time. And then just after coming back from the competition, I said, I can't continue in this team. I have done the best that I could do in this domain. This is not for me. So I have just let it go. The second thing which I have picked up after that, like as of now, like AI is sort of very cool. Previously, software development was very cool. You can just
Yes.
learn
Be the
coding and all.
developer.
Yeah,
Yes. Mm.
be a developer, your life will be sorted, and all of these YouTube videos are out there. So I was in second year, and I started to learn how to code. I've self-learned how to code, and then I realized how can I be the best in this domain, right? After that, I have got this opportunity to interview for Google Fellowship, Google Women Tech Makers Fellowship. I went through the entire process. I was probably one of the very 5-6 people who were from a different background than software development, and then I
Wow.
got selected into that. So I have worked there for 2 years. I was a Google Fellow. They sort of paid us. That was like a free perk. They got us to Hyderabad, all of this. I was loving that job. But when I was doing software development, I realized that I might not be at the top 10% out there. I do not, this doesn't come naturally to me. I have to do a lot of work to do there. I'm more like a people's person. I can manage team. I can do some sort of work. And then I had my Google interview scheduled, and I had the courage to say no, that I do not want to interview for you. That has like my parents are very sad for that. And I think that's something you have to live with. But then I had the courage to say no. Then I moved to marketing. I explored a few things in marketing. And eventually after when I was at the fourth year of college, I thought that maybe there's no job out there that I'm liking. Maybe there's nothing out there for me. And then I discovered product management, which is sort of an intersection of technology, design, marketing, business, so on and so forth. And
Correct. Correct. Correct.
I loved it. So I basically like scale up that. I explore more jobs, and I have taken that path. The underlying fact is all of these things. Pick a domain, do try to be the best in that domain, figure out how you're feeling about the entire thing, have the courage to let it go. And this entire thing is only possible if you believe that you can do everything. Everything is learnable, right? If there's a software developer out there, you can also become a software developer. All of these things are skills. So I personally believe in the concept of say possibility mindset, which is like at the core of whatever I do. I wanted to be a public speaker. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to publish a book. All of these things which I have done were once a dream for me. And I believe that it is possible for me to sort of do that, because if anyone in this entire world can do this, you are also a human being. You can sort of, obviously, you
Absolutely.
might not do
Yes.
that well, but you have to stay in the game unless you get the results. So that is something which I highly recommend if at anyone who is like watching this podcast, even if you do not take anything out of say product management and all of that, just take one thing. This will be my highlight, that you have to believe that you can do everything. You just have to stay in the game and optimize for as long as it takes to get the results. So that is something that I highly recommend everyone out there. And then sky is the limit. You can sort of do anything once you achieve this mindset.
Really, really great answer, Anki, because I personally believe that whatever you mentioned is a golden key thing that one can definitely implement. And I would say this will be a key lesson for many of the people would like to just simplify the thing and explore their own potential. Because nowadays, with a new gen, I believe that identifying the own potential is a very, very important thing, especially when you are living in a technology era where in a 5 minutes you can deliver from Swiggy. AI can write everything for you, nothing you want to do. You can
Yeah.
do everything, right? Every other thing can be done by something else, right? So
Yeah.
now at this point of time, finding yourself, finding your own potential is a very, very important thing. And to do that, this is the framework what you have clearly mentioned, and that should be the mindset. Then
Yeah.
only one can find own potential, right? So this would be the golden lesson, I would say. Great. Now, the other part of the coin is called is a resiliency,
Yeah.
and that's where I just want to push a little bit that how professionals can build a resiliency while experimental or experience do some experiment oh sorry do some do some tried with side hustles. You mentioned about so many experiment with your side project. It could be your product or do your MVP, or maybe some ideation, simple ideation can be done, because now it is not the era that you are thinking something and maybe it will take years to do your first Android app, right? I think before
Yeah.
couple of let's say 5 years before, building your first app as a non-technical guy, it will take maybe a year. You will have to pay a
Yeah.
lot of things. But now it is not the era. At least 15, 20-year-old kid can build a website in a couple of hours,
Yes.
right? So that
Yes.
is a drastic change, right? So in this particular era of the AI, how one professional can build the resiliency while experimenting with the side hustles or AI native products.
Yeah. To answer that, I feel you always have to start from a point of why exactly you're doing something. Like to
Okay.
stay in the game, you need to have a very constant motivation. For me, that domain is, for example, gym. For
Okay.
over and over, a lot of people have suggested me that everyone should join gym. It's a great thing to do. And again, I'm never saying that it's not great. I just do not find the motivation to go to gym because of say, and I have like very different reasons. You people are obviously a lot of people are calling me the self obsessed. A lot of people are calling me in denial. My parents have a very different theory about this entire thing. But if I do not have the motivation to go to every single day, wake up and go to gym, I am never going to do that, and I do not do that till date. Even though I know this is a good thing, everyone is doing it, it will give me like better results. I highly motivate anyone to go to gym, just to be clear. Like I'm not motivating anyone. I'm just saying if I do not have a personal interest into anything, I may be doing that for say a week or so because someone is saying it, because I feel something is cool out there. I will not be able to scale. The one and only area where you can stay in the game, if you have a very clear answer to the question why exactly you are doing this, right? And if you are not able to answer that, just leave everything, find an answer to that. Like there's a very perfect book, One Thing, and for people like me, even though I've not exactly followed that book, and it just explicitly asks you to pick one thing. There's like a focusing question also, which says if you can pick one thing which will solve everything else for you, what will be that one thing you will work upon? Right. And the very basic thing
Hmm.
of actually, if you're not figuring out what is your one thing, just list everything you want to do and sort of say, if you are sort of dying tomorrow, if the world is ending tomorrow, what is this one thing that you'll pick up? For me, if the world is ending tomorrow, I will definitely not go to gym today. That is like very very clear for me. And for years, I have been trying to do that, even though this is not something which I'm like very proud of. This is something which is happening. This is like truth out there.
Yeah, that's the fact actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
the to stay in the game, you need to have either a personal motivation, like something personal has happened to you. If you have like a passion for something, making money can also be like a very good motivation. I have seen, obviously, it's not a direct, like making money is never a direct outcome of anything. If you provide value, you will get money eventually. But that can be like a very good motivation. If every single day you are waking up and then saying that, I'm not rich enough, that is also like a motivation, or I want to make more money. You are not rich enough is sort of a bad sort of manifestation to do. So things like that. But on a very simple levels, you need to be very sure of why you're doing that. Because if something is not coming naturally to you, You are forcing something out there because it might be cool. Like for me, it was software development. I did software development. I went to Google. I have studied with them for 2 years. That's probably the best path anyone could have taken. They have chosen like 100 people from this entire India for that program. And I think out of 140, 50 people are already at Google at this point in time. And not even once I have regretted not taking that decision, because that is something I do not belong to. I was not enjoying that process at all. I am more like a people person. Whatever I'm doing now is something that makes me happy, that makes me feel more satisfied. Why I was doing that? Because it was cool. I didn't have anything else to do. I wanted to explore software development, and that is also a very good motivation. But pick one thing. That is first. Second is you need to have a timeline. You can't be
Hmm.
just blindly going out there and then saying, I want to change my life, and we'll just take like next 50 years to do that. That's never going to happen. So to stay in the game, have very small timeline and very small goals associated with that. For example, if I had to pick up my gym problem, I will just say I will go to gym for the next 3 days, and that's it. After 3 days, I will evaluate if I have gone to the gym, if what was the problem, how did I feel these entire 3 days, if I can solve for any one of these things out there, and so on. But having like a reason why you're doing something, having a clear timeline, and having a clear goal associated with that, and then going back, iterating the entire process is something that you can stay. Obviously, there are very common cliched suggestions that never compare yourself with other people. That doesn't work. I can say the same thing, but it is very difficult that you are not going out there and not comparing yourself. Plus, I cannot say that because I do that a lot. So, in
Very
general,
honest.
yeah, that might be like a wrong suggestion. But if you are a human being,
Mm.
comparison and all of these things sort of comes
Correct.
very
It's
naturally
absolutely,
to you.
yeah.
So you can use that as a motivation, that if someone else is out there doing something, you can do that too. There is just one underlying thing which will always stay top of my mind in terms of mindset, is if you want to do something, there's a price to be paid. Like if I
Mm.
want to go to gym, I have to wake up early in the morning. Am I ready to pay the price? So rather than asking, do I want to go to gym? You can always ask, am I ready to pay the price? Like of this particular example, right? I'm mentoring almost 200 people every single month. That means I am not having my weekends. Today is also like a weekend, and I am just spending all of my weekends mentoring people. I might not be able to go out as much
Mm.
as I used to go, and that is a price. So if I want to mentor more people, am I ready to spend more time out of say my family or my weekends? So rather than asking, do I want to mentor more people, I can always ask, am I ready to spend more time here? At this point, I can do that. I will choose that. But eventually, you will realize that why and when to say no, and why and when you are actually staying in the game. So, in this scenario, something like this helps. Also, the last thing is, for anyone out there who is doing something, they are paying a price. Like we are all human beings. Every single person out there who is standing on the stage, who is sitting with you, who is in your class, who is writing something, every single person is paying a price. You don't know that, right? Because you're not living with those person out there. So before actually saying that I want this life, always think about like what all the price that this person is paying. And a very common example is celebrity phase. A lot of people wants to be famous, but
Correct.
are you ready to
Yes.
pay the price of being famous, that you go anywhere, every single thing is controversy, you can't say anything, you can't have a dinner with your family out there? I am personally not ready to pay that price. I never want to be famous. That's like pretty easy way to actually evaluate that.
Recently, I have seen one video of Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah,
And I'm mentioning because in your book I read about Mark Zuckerberg or many other big
yeah,
entrepreneurs' names, right? So Zuckerberg came here into the center of the table, and there are 100 cameramans. Hope you also see the same, right?
yeah,
So the quote was mentioned like that everyone wanted to become a CEO, right? But no one would like to take that pressure because literally they are like not even 5 feet away.
yeah,
Zuckerberg is here, and others are not even 5 feet away. And
yeah,
100 cameramen are there. Imagine the pressure, right? So that is absolutely true. And what you have mentioned about, deciding what you want to achieve and what is the price to be paid. Because see,
yeah,
that is what all about ourselves, right? because
Yes.
hustle is not something that you can do in your routine, right? It is always beyond your routine. But at the
Yes.
same time, you have to decide, am I a hustler? First thing. Second thing, if I'm a hustler, then am I ready to pay the price, right?
Yes.
Because the podcasting, right, what we are doing, we are also doing in the weekends, and we
Yes.
reach out to many people, many guests, and all. It's not an easy job, also, right? So some driving factor is absolutely required to do something beyond your 9 to 5 job, your weekdays, or on your weekends, right? It's absolutely true. It's required. And for you, what are those driving factor, or I would say inspired point, right, or motivational point for you specifically to do this all stuff? How you already mentioned how you become a person like this who can do
Yes.
multiple things, how you started talking about the mindset, what should be the mindset for other people, and as well you start mentoring people. It's not an easy job at all, right? Because there
Yes.
are tons of, like, different people have a different mindset, right? You have to tune it out, and as well you have to focus on the growth or untap the potential of the person, right? So
Yes.
mentoring is absolutely not an easy job, right? So ho- to the way you yourself is evolving, what are the key driving factor that always inspire you?
Yes. So I think I'm, as I've said, I'm like a believer of possibilities. I personally, the very
Hmm.
first thing is I always see, am I doing the best with my potential out there? I have
Hmm.
learned how to write. I have learned how to talk to people. I have learned so many things with so much different experience. If I can basically add more value by sharing my journey in forms of writing, in form of this podcast, in form of like mentoring, and so on, and at a very basic level, if I can help like one person out there, and that is also something which I have written at the end of my book. Like this might, as I say, this might not be the best
Correct,
business
correct.
book you will read, but if at least one person is motivated after reading this to build something and earn extra money or whatever goal you are having at this moment, my job is done. So I always start
Correct.
what is the maximum value I can provide. I basically feel everything that happens in the world is sort of value addition exchange. As I say, we are still in a very traditional sort of business. I feel all of this is say a barter system. You provide value, you
Yes.
get value. While value can be money, value can be time, value can be skills, so on and so forth. So that was first. If I am living up to like the best potential out there, I also feel everything is possible, which is sort of a dangerous domain to feel, if you ask me, because then you want to experiment a lot and you want to see if I can do this as well, if I can do this as well. And in this process, you are actually doing a lot of things with a lot of your time, with a lot of your bandwidth. And this is not just applicable to your career, right? Because if you fundamentally believe everything is possible, you are sort of experimenting with every single thing that's coming in your way, personally,
Correct. Yeah.
professionally, family wise, partner wise, relationships, anything that happens. But I personally feel I want to test myself more. I have yet to find a point where I will just say that maybe this is not possible out there. And maybe I'm just looking out for that thing. So in my Instagram also I've written advocate of possibilities. I generally present
Yes,
myself
I see
in the,
that.
in the same way that everything is possible. I am just basically leading by example out there, and I try to
Hmm.
basically experiment as much as possible to reach and then say that everything is possible, and this is not a theory, this is something which I have done. So maybe that is a state where I'm trying to reach. I'm like way ahead in my journey from where I've started, but there's like a long way to go. I'm like just
Correct.
still, but this is like a driving motivation. I still, one of the very wildest dream of my entire life is I want to give a TED talk. I want to reach the TED stage, and I'm pretty sure I
Oh.
will be basically talking about possibilities. I just want to make sure that by the time I reach there, I should be having enough stories to tell that I have done all of these things and do that too. So that is like it
Great,
will
great.
function from say a better self out there, a future self which you look up to, a future self that you can envision, and then say, to reach there, you have to do XYZ things. That just works very well. It's also very fun because you can talk to someone who doesn't exist, and you just
Yes,
have
yes, yes, correct.
things out there. But again, a part of mindset, say manifestations, and all of these aspirational things, this is something which has worked really well for me. If you can envision yourself out there, and you can just see like, I want to reach to the TED stage, and then you can backtrack. I'm a product manager after all, right? So I backtrack like to reach there, what all things I have to do, which path should I
Correct, correct,
follow.
correct.
And this entire process, if I can help people to reach their goals as well, that is something that I really aspire to do in my life. So that is the motivation behind everything.
Really great, Anjali. It's absolutely very key answer that you have clarified. Even recently, in one of the podcasts with Vinod Khosla, that I think Nikhil Kamat did, and
Yeah.
Vinod Khosla is a great personality. He's a global leader, and he spent tons of years, building or maybe envisioning as an investor. And as I said, he's a global leader. He puts a mission. He has a lot of missions to do. He mentioned that uh, if he want to summarize his life and want to simply say in a couple of words, then if something is there which cannot be done, he really wanted to try that.
Yeah.
That line was very, very powerful. This is the way you can definitely, you'll untap all possible potential of yourself, right? Because many times, see, we, as you said, right, we are the average by ourselves, right? We are
Yeah.
an average of five people. We have mindset, but envisioning something or having a, I would say, manifest or manifest, maybe
Yes.
the right word. Yeah, I can also do that, right? It's not an easy job. Everyone cannot do that, right? And once you decide or once you just think once, am I be the right speaker, right? It's just one possibility you thought of, right? And then put that seed into your mind and then, build a track. As you mentioned,
Yeah.
you did a reverse tracking, right? So that is something required a good courage out of yourself. Okay, so as we discuss about the evolving era of the AI and even the roles like a AI PM role, right? At the same time, the way of working is also evolving a lot, right? And nowadays we can see many opportunities with remote working as well, working globally, right? Is more accessible now, more easy to apply as well, right? So from that perspective, you have mentioned about working in a cross-functional teams and all, right. So what is your take on how professional can apply on the remote opportunity easily and
Yeah.
how to do that? Any quick note on that?
Yeah. So remote work was normalized thanks to COVID. Like in COVID, because people figured
Yes.
out that it is possible to do remote work. But as of now, a lot of companies are still on office. It is just a very significant difference between, say, a remote job and an in-office job is you have to have, say, a huge accountability and credibility in remote job. Other when it is compared to, say, a normal in office sort of job. So for getting a remote job as well, you need to have this authenticity out there on any one of these platforms. So hence, if you are looking for, say, a remote job, profile building and all of these things, that like proof of work is more common, and this is sort of a must have, because people will not trust you otherwise in that scenario. So once that is done, once you have your profile, once you have a proof of work out there, remote opportunities are a great way if you are also planning to, say, basically explore other things at the same time. And I'm not highlighting moonlighting in any way. I'm just saying something of your
Yeah,
interest. Want to give, say, time to your family if there's any family constraints in general. That is like a best way to work. Again, remote jobs are excellent for individual contributors. So if you are, say, a developer, a designer, where you have to basically put your work out there and someone is reviewing and as part of team, that is an excellent choice. If you are, say, more of a team person where you have to get the work done and so on and so forth, you might face some challenges. Like as a product manager, the remote job is actually like a little more challenging, because you have to get the work done from all these people who are like sitting at different corners of the world. So that is like having the caveat part. But on the other line, there are a lot of startups who are hiring remote. So there are a lot of platforms. I've very recently written an article about this on my newsletter. But if
yes.
you want to start with, you can think of this like a backwards process. So any startup who has just raised fundings will eventually hire. 80% of this funding goes to hiring. So always have a key eye on like what all startups are basically getting funded, what is the industry you want to work with, and reach out with your proof of work to these people. I have personally got the job. Both of my jobs, my previous both jobs were in remote. So both of my jobs I have actually got by emailing or sending a message on LinkedIn with a proof of my work. Then there are a lot of platforms where it is paid for the recruiter to post a job. So prioritize those job boards, because if a recruiter is paying to post a job, they're actually very serious about this, right? So there are platforms like Wellfound, we work remotely, so on and so forth. You can also find these jobs on LinkedIn, and again, not easy apply, not LinkedIn jobs. But if you just type like the keywords on your feed, like hashtag product, hashtag hiring, you will see a list of jobs that are out there on this portal. You can always reach out to these people again with all of these things. So if at all you are fine that remote job is like the perfect job for you, only then you apply, because the uncertainty of a remote job, because it is in startup, is also very high, and the trust you have to build through the process is very difficult if you are not able to see someone out there, right? So these are again sort of like pros and cons and like the basics of platforms that you can apply for.
Okay, so if I would like to summarize, then one is the visibility of your work,
Yeah.
right? Your POC or MVP products. Second is your own networking, where exactly how to reach out the right people, finding with the right keywords, right? And third is something, look out to the right opportunities from, for example, is it's a good startups. What are the startups getting funding and all, right?
Yeah.
Because so ultimately, backtracking is that most of the time when you get some funding, people will do a good hiring first,
Yeah.
right? So that is a good tack on to click at that particular opportunity, right? So I
Yes.
think that is really great one. And for the improving or increasing the visibility globally of your, because now we are in an era that it's not about your resume, it's about your own portfolio. We are
Yes.
in that era, right? So, how to increase the visibility of your own portfolio over maybe LinkedIn or Substack, Medium, or in generic on all digital platform itself?
Yes. So the very first thing, obviously, you need to show what you're doing. And even though that whatever you're working on is not that great, something is always better than nothing. So once you, and
Yes.
when I mentor people out there, they say ki I do not have anything to share on LinkedIn, right? And then I say that we just had this call, right? There must be one thing that you have learned from this call. Anyone who is learning out there are either doing a course or watching a YouTube video or reading one sentence out there. It is impossible that you're not learning anything out there.
Absolutely. Yes,
So the
correct. Yes.
entire process is to share what you have learned and just start from there. You do not have to be an expert. You do not have to be a mentor, a teacher, and anything. You are just sharing whatever you have learned. And there are huge upsides to that. Even if your posts are getting, say, 300, 400 impressions at a very basic level, this is a matter of compounding, right? If you post thrice a week, and you get say 300 impressions per week, that's still like about 1000 impressions in a week, which were, so 1000 is always better than zero. So always
Yes,
start
correct.
somewhere, pick one platform. And I like, obviously there are multiple sort of advisors on this, like you should do this on every platform out there. There are different things which works for different people. If you're just starting out, pick one platform. It can be Twitter, it can even be Instagram. But again, every platform has their own use case, right? If you want to get into say content creation and all of these things, maybe Instagram is the right platform. But if you're wanting to do something with your job career, maybe LinkedIn is like the best platform out there. If you are like very violent and I can sort of stand all of these opinions which are very harsh, you should go to Twitter. I do not like Twitter at all. Like people are
I
very
agree.
strongly opinionated there. But again, it's a great platform. Like Twitter has provided so many opportunities. You can connect with anyone. Most of the founders, tech founders, are sort of very active on Twitter. And anyone who uses Twitter will tell you that every single job they have got is from Twitter, because they're using Twitter. Every single job I have got is from LinkedIn, because I use LinkedIn very effectively. It can be any platform. Most platform works in a similar way, but pick one platform, Pick something that you have learned throughout the process. If you're not learning something, that's also like a red flag. So start learning, like start from there.
Correct,
If
correct,
you are
correct.
learning, just share your learnings thrice a week, twice a week, even once a week if you're not that confident. And you just put yourself out there so that nobody is going to know that what you know unless you tell them. Right. So you just go out there and tell that these are the things I have learned, I have tried, this is something I've learned, so on and so forth.
Okay. And when you are mentoring or guiding many people, especially aspiring PMs, right? Uh, Accept this thing that I don't have something to put on the on a sort of digital media. Except this, is there any common mistake that aspiring people generally do?
Common mistake, I think, are pretty diverse. A common query which I get is we are not getting
Yeah.
interview calls. And I think 80,
Okay. Okay.
90% of all the queries, I have also analyzed my all queries using Perplexity, and I have like a
Okay.
fancy infographic. Most of the queries are sort of on the lines of I am not getting interviews. And there are
Okay.
multiple
Okay.
subsets to that. Obviously, it starts with, say, resume making, profile building, and all
Hmm.
of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Part of this is personal branding, which I have just mentioned. The third part, which I always focus, is having enough number of applications. Like if, and I always ask this counter question, like how many jobs have you applied for? And then they say 5 in the last week. You cannot expect, basically, obviously, it's a miracle if you get a one job out of five. Generally, it doesn't work that way. Even if you have, say, 1% conversion, 1% of 10%, 1% of 10 jobs applied to 1% of 100 jobs applied, there's a significant difference out there.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
have
Yes.
to, it is also a volume game. You have to apply a lot of jobs to actually find something that you're looking out for. And most of the things, as you have figured those in this podcast only, as works in a similar way. You have to experiment a lot. You have to basically optimize basis feedback. If, for example, one industry you are getting two responses, maybe you double down on that industry. You reach out to
Okay.
more people from that industry. If there's a specific job you want to apply for, just reach out to every single person out there. It is free for everyone, right? You can find emails out there. As I've said, there are no constraints. AI just solves everything. So you can find emails, you can reach out to them, you can get the message. Everything is possible. You just have to do the work out there. And most common mistake I have personally figured out is everyone is just sort of leaning towards like which course should I do, and
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
on
Correct.
and even in the courses that I teach, they are hands-on experiences. We are building a website, and people are like, most of the people are just listening to the theory. And after the end, they say, like, which other course should I do? It is never gonna work. Like in most cases, you don't
Correct.
need a course. I have never done a course, even though I teach a course. I should not say this. I'm not like a course person. If I find a problem, YouTube is a gold mine of resources. You can
Absolutely.
find
Yes.
everything there. Maybe you need a little structure. That's why you should join a course. But other than that, if you just keep hopping from, say, one course to another, one certification
That
to
will
another,
not. Yeah.
it will be of like no value. So never avoid the actual work. If you want a job, you have to spend a lot of time reaching out to these people. That's unavoidable. You cannot skip that. You can do hundreds of courses, you still have to do that. So never,
Yes.
actually, and I think this is the most common mistake, that people generally try to avoid the core thing which is there, and they just feel that someone will give some magical formula out there that will just make it work. But that doesn't happen. So you have to do the work. There's no escape to that.
Okay, that is really great. And now let's go to some. Okay, before going to rapid fire, just one or two quick questions. Would you like to suggest any book for audience?
I think if you are a female, you should read Lean In by Sheryl
Okay.
Sandberg, because it just explains how to build confidence, how to sit at the table. It is a comparatively difficult domain of corporate for females. It's a different story. Again, not general discrimination. It's a different story altogether because of the background you're coming from. So you should learn that. If you are struggling with, say, maintaining a habit or staying consistent, Atomic Habits is again hands down
Yes,
best
absolutely.
book in general, because I am like also a fan of, say, Naval Ravikant. There are a lot of podcasts and resources on him. So if you can follow the newsletter or things like that, that works. So I think just start small. Eventually, you'll realize what all domains are you interested in, and you can basically start from there. So these are like top three books if I have to comment on that.
Okay. Any one advice on mindset, growth mindset, I would say?
Yeah, I have this very theory which is like I do not have it patent yet, but I'm pretty sure I'll do that. Like the happiness and sadness of your life, the ratio of happiness and sadness will always be constant. And I give this
Mhm.
example every single time. If you have AC like in your home, only then you have the sadness of not having electricity or AC not working or something like that. If you do not have AC at all, you will never feel the sadness for that. In general, whatever you do, be it personal, professional, this is a theory which was created by me. Like this is something which I have figured out over multiple times. But I call it sukh by dukh. Sukh by dukh is always constant, which means the happiness and sadness will always be constant. The more you want to reach ahead, the more cost you have to pay. It is definitely worth
That is
it.
correct.
You obviously explore that. Like thousand by thousand is still a constant, one by one is still a constant. You just have to keep in mind that while you are going somewhere, you have to will be facing challenges. Everyone is facing challenges. There's no one out there which is having it easy. There's no one out there who has just figured it out and you look up to. Everyone has challenges. Always remember there's a price to be paid, and happiness by sadness will always remain constant. So I think that's like that just helps in to move ahead in life.
Okay, that is really great answer, Anjali. And the last thing on the advice part, would you like to give any advice to the people who are hesitant or having some fatigue with the AI era evolution?
You will be missed out, I would say. You cannot avoid this. A lot of people, even in my personal domain, because I have worked in some very, very big companies as well, a lot of corporates adapt to these things very late. And by the time they adopt, it will be like mostly, it will be like too late, right? So the more you can get involved with this, I'm not saying that this is going to stay. I'm pretty sure after 1 year, we'll be talking about very different technologies out there. But if you do not
That is so
learn
true.
today, right, so you will not be able to do what we are having next year as well. And if at all it stays, that's like you can think of this like something which has just got invented, like vibe coding. And I also say this to a lot of my mentees in general. If you learn vibe coding now, coding was invented I think in February this year only. After 3 years, you will be the very few people who have 3 years of experience in vibe coding, top 1%. That's like an unfair advantage you can get just by learning these tools. This availability is very high. Learning is also very high. There are like thousands and thousands of people actually building YouTube videos, courses, and so on. I would also suggest do not spend a lot of money on learning these things. Most of these things are free. If you still want to take a course, you can do. I never suggest people to take a course. You can learn things of your own. Try to build something. There is like this is a specific time of building rather than say talking and all of these things. Build something. You will learn more with practical skills, like almost 100x more than you will do by just doing a course or doing a certification and all. The last is, I had to break this to you, but certifications do not matter. They just don't matter as a recruiter. If I'm not caring about your resume, imagine like the importance of certifications on your
Correct,
profile.
correct, correct, correct. See,
So
your when your work skill speaks, the certifications will not be more relevant. Yeah.
yeah,
So
that
building a
was like
product,
yeah,
put that efforty or calories on the building some good MVP product will really help rather than
yeah,
certification. Okay. So really great, Anjali. And now let's move to the quick rapid fire. Couple of quick
yeah.
questions for you. One AI tool you cannot live without.
ChatGPT, for
Okay.
sure.
Best career decision you made.
I've not settled ever. I think that that was like the best career.
That would be really great, right? A book other than your own that saved you. One book you already mentioned about three books, but
Yeah,
at least one book that you feel that really saved you somewhere.
growth mindset. I think yeah,
Growth mindset. Yeah.
growth mindset
Okay.
by Carol Dweck.
Correct. Yeah. Biggest myth about AI product today.
You have to do everything. I think that's a myth. You're not doing everything. You're still doing your job. But that's a myth that AI product managers are sort of doing everything. So that is not the case.
And one lesson you would like to tell your 20 years old oneself, then what it would be.
You did it.
That's great.
Congratulations. Yeah, so a long way to go, but I think I was pretty, I am doing like a pretty well compared to like what I
Yes.
have envisioned. And so, yeah, to my younger self, I will always say that you did it. Congratulations.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Anjali. In today's podcast, we have catered many, many things. Your journey is very inspiring to many people. Many aspiring people would like to learn or take a key takeaways. Even I have learned a lot from you as well. And if I want to summarize this podcast, it's a full mix of lot of routine problems to address your key learnings, and I believe that a lot of people who are having some fatigue or having some barriers to break, right? They can simply listen you and find a way out, right? How what to do more and more, right? Because at the end of the day, doing multiple experiments and keep on trying something new will lead you somewhere that you can find your own potential, and that's very, very important. And we are in an era that finding our own potential is very important. At the same time, there are multiple new things. It's not an era of keep thinking and keep talking about, right? It's an
Yeah,
era ideating and do a hands-on, right? We
yeah.
are into that era, right? So how to do, what to do, a lot of points we have created. And thank you so much again for having this podcast. Really appreciate your time and valuable insights from you. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
so much,
Thank you so
Anjali.
much for having me. I had a great time. As I said, I hope that if one person gets something out of this, I think our work is done.
Okay.
So, yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
from our whole team, the best wishes to you is that one day we would like to see you on the TEDx
Yes,
platform.
I will also use this clip there. There.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. You can do that. You have manifested here or before, but you have mentioned here
yeah.
and then you are there.
Yeah, we
Okay,
have
so
it
again,
documented
nice.
now.
Yes, correct, correct.